Hey everyone, Nelson here from Priority Bicycles, and today we're going to assemble your E-Classic Plus.
Before we get started, it's important to know that we always recommend that your bicycle be professionally assembled. Or if you choose to follow this video and do home assembly, we recommend that a professional bicycle mechanic safety check your bicycle before riding. Now let's get started.
Before we get started, let's take a photo of the label. Here you'll find the bicycle model, the size, the color, and the serial number, which you'll need for any future warranty cases. Now, using a box cutter or a pair of scissors, let's open up your box. Inside of your bike box, you'll of course have your bike and your small parts box. Using our box cutter, let's open it up to see what's inside. In here, you'll see your charger, set of tools to assemble the bike. This bolt here, which will connect the fender to the fork, water bottle cage, a rear reflector, set of pedals, and some touch-up paint. I also see this manual here for gates information. It's important to stop what we're doing now to review your manuals before getting started. Now let's continue with removing all the packing material off of the bike. Be careful with this black wire here when cutting the zip tie. When removing the front wheel, simply slide the front wheel forward or roll it forward until the crank arm is out of the way. Now let's install the handlebar onto the stem. When doing this, let's make sure that the stem is facing forward and the fork has a forward rake as well. You'll also notice that the disc brake caliper will be on the left side of the bike. Now, using your 4mm Allen key, let's remove all 4 bolts from the stem. Grab the handlebar, and it's important to orient the cables properly as well. So, with the handlebars sweeping backwards like so, the shifter should be on your right side, and the rear brake cable should be routing on the outside of the front. Now let's get your faceplate on and make sure that the knurling on the handlebar is centered in the stem. No need to lock down these stem bolts, as we'll do that at the end. If you received your bicycle with the display not installed on the handlebar, we'll simply open up the clamp like this, install it on the left side. Using your 2.5mm Allen key, we'll use it to tighten the bolt. Again, no need to lock this down, as we'll do it at the end. Using your 3mm Allen key, let's install the headlight onto the handlebar. Let's loosen this bolt here. Then let's route the light from the back, so the cable comes from the back side of the handlebar. Open up the clamp and install it on the left side of the handlebar. Then snug up the bolt. Now let's install your front wheel. When doing so, let's make sure that the wheel is facing the right direction. On the E-Classic, it's pretty easy to see. You'll want to make sure that the rotor is on the left side. To get the front wheel installed, let's first put the bike on its kickstand and make sure to hold it up while doing so, or else the front end will tip downward. Now let's remove this dummy axle here with our 15mm wrench. And we're going to want to remove this tab here inside of the caliper. When installing the front wheel, make sure that this spacer with the tab on it is facing downward on the dropout. Now that we have our bicycle mostly assembled, let's stop what we're doing to remove the battery so we can charge it while finishing the rest of it. Now let's continue on to our assembly. Using the hardware that came in our small parts box, we're going to install it through the center of the fork. Let's remove the nut first, this washer, this other curved washer, and then leave one washer on the bolt and slide it through. On the back side, we'll install this half-curved washer with the curved side facing the fork and the flat side facing outward. Then grab our fender and install it on the back. Then grab our washer and nut to tighten it in place. Now with our 4mm Allen key, we're going to loosen this bolt here on the dropout of the fork. Feed it through the eyelet of the strut first, and then thread it into the dropout of the fork. Do the same thing on the opposite side. While we're down here, let's install the motor wire to the bike. Then using this clip, you can clip that onto the fork. Again, with the 4mm Allen key, we'll move this bolt here on the rear dropout to install the rear fender strut. Feed it through the eyelet first, and then onto the uppermost eyelet of the dropout. Let's do the same on the opposite side. Let's install your pedals. We'll remove this covering first. Then we're going to identify the right and the left pedal. We do this one of two ways. First one would be a sticker on there showing R for right and L for left. You can also look at the side of the pedal where it interfaces with your tool. If all the sides are smooth, that is the right pedal. If you see knurling on any of the sides, then you know that that is the left pedal. Let's start off by installing our right pedal. If you have grease, it's a good idea to apply it onto the threads. Using our 15mm wrench, we'll put it onto the pedal like so and rotate it clockwise or towards the right. Once you can't go any further, we're going to hold the rear wheel and the tool and then push apart from each other so it's nice and tight. Now let's install the left pedal. Again, it's a good idea to apply some grease onto the threads if you have some available. Then grab your tool. You'll want to turn your wrench towards the left or counterclockwise, as this side is reverse threaded. When you're able to turn the wrench by hand, hold the rear wheel with one hand and the tool with your other, and push apart to tighten the pedal. So we're almost there. Now let's go through the rest of the bike to make sure every bolt that we've touched and others on the bike are nice and tight. Let's do the fender first using a 5mm Allen key and a 10mm wrench. Bring the fender as high up as possible. Then using our 4mm Allen key, we'll tighten the struts at the fork. Let's do the same thing on the rear fender. Make sure you do this on both sides. Next, let's do the front wheel. To do this, let's remove the kickstand. Apply pressure on the stem downward and tighten the axle nuts. Make sure you do this on both sides. You want to do this until the tool is an impression in your hand. Now let's adjust your handlebar and stem, making sure that the handlebar is at a nice comfortable position and the stem is straight with the front wheel. To see more details on this process, look at the description below. You'll want to tighten these bolts down until the tool is an impression on your hand. While we're here, we can also align our front light using our 3mm Allen key. Let's adjust the seat to our appropriate height. Let's loosen this bolt here on the seat collar first and slide the seat and seat post all the way out. If your seat post does not have grease, let's apply a little bit onto the post. Do not go above this line here, which is our minimum insertion. Now let's install our seat post onto the frame. And you want to get the seat just about hip bone height when standing right next to it. Making sure that the markings on the seat post are inside of the frame at all times. Make sure that the seat is also pointed forward. While we're back here, let's install the rear reflector. And I want to get the reflector as high as possible on the seat post and make sure that it's pointing straight back, like so. Grab your reflector, then loosen the screw on it, move the reflector inward towards the stem, and tighten it down. Make sure that the reflector is facing forward. Let's install your water bottle cage onto the down tube of the bike. Using your 4mm Allen key, we're going to remove these bolts here. Once your bicycle is assembled and your battery is fully charged, let's get your battery to install onto the bike. To install your battery, let's put the key into the frame first. Then, orient the battery so that the power button is facing upward. Rotate your handlebar either to the right or the left. And install the bottom of it first and slide the top one upward and give it a nice firm snap into the frame, like so. You could then remove your key. If you installed the battery incorrectly or just didn't get a nice firm snap, you can use your key to unlock it and slide it out easier. Now let's make sure everything's working properly on your new bike. Let's press and hold down the power button for a few seconds. Wait till it turns on. And then you can play around with the settings, making sure that it goes all the way from 1 to 3. Turn the lights on by pressing and holding the plus button. Then with the bike on the kickstand, lift the front end up and press and hold the walk assist button. You should see the front wheel spin. When you're done, press your brakes to stop the wheel. For more information on how to operate the display on your E-Classic, check out the video in the description. Thanks for joining me on assembling your E-Classic Plus. Before taking your first ride, make sure to get the bike checked by a professional mechanic. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Our information's at the bottom of the screen. And remember to keep it classy.